There are moments in life when your heart feels heavy, your hands feel empty, and your doers feel unanswered. Moments when doctors say we've done all we can, when finances collapse, relationships break, and hope begins to fade. At that moment, the world whispers, it's impossible, but faith whispers something greater, because for the one who created the heavens without pillars, for the one who split the sea for a desperate nation, for the one who brought life out of death, impossible does not exist. Today's reminder is not about long speeches or complicated actions. It is about one thing you say from a heart that trusts Allah. Say it, and watch how Allah makes the impossible possible. Nothing is impossible for Allah. These words are easy to say, but their depth is far greater than most hearts truly grasp. When this belief settles firmly in the heart, it changes how a person sees life, hardship, fear, and even the future. The human mind is limited, our strength is limited, our vision is limited, but Allah is not limited in any way. He is Al-Qadir, the all-powerful, the one who has absolute control over everything that exists and everything that does not yet exist. We often measure possibilities based on what we can see. We calculate outcomes using logic, experience, and statistics. If the problem looks too big, we quietly conclude that it cannot be solved. If the road looks too dark, we assume there is no light ahead. But faith teaches us something very different. Faith teaches us that what is impossible for creation is easy for the Creator. What exhausts us does not tire Allah. What confuses us is already known to Him in complete detail. Allah creates without effort. He does not need tools, time, or assistance. When He wills something, He only says be, and it comes into existence. The mountains, the oceans, the skies, and the stars did not require struggle or planning. They came into being by His command. If Allah can create the universe from nothing, then what is your problem compared to that? What is your hardship compared to the creation of the heavens and the earth? Many people lose hope because they look at their circumstances instead of looking at Allah. They see closed doors, repeated failures, unanswered prayers, and they begin to feel abandoned. But Allah is never absent. He is closer than we imagine, watching, listening, and arranging matters in ways we cannot yet understand. Sometimes Allah allows the situation to worsen, not to harm us, but to remove every false source of reliance from our hearts. When all doors close, the heart finally turns fully to Allah, and that is when real change begins. History is filled with reminders that Allah turns impossibility into reality. When the sea stood before a trapped people and an enemy army chased them from behind, there was no logical escape. Fear filled the air and despair whispered loudly, yet Allah made a path where none existed. The sea obeyed the command of its creator, proving that the laws of nature are also under His control. What humans call impossible is simply a matter of command for Allah. Every day, Allah shows us signs of His power, but we are often too distracted to notice them. Life emerges from lifeless soil. A seed buried in darkness breaks through the earth and reaches the light. A child is formed in the womb from something insignificant, shaped perfectly, given a soul, a heartbeat, and a destiny. These are not small miracles. They are constant reminders that Allah specializes in what we could never achieve on our own. When Allah delays something, it does not mean He has refused it. Delay is part of divine wisdom. A person may beg for relief, unaware that immediate relief would harm them. Allah sees what we cannot see. He knows the future consequences of every outcome. Sometimes He strengthens the heart before changing the situation. Sometimes He changes the person before changing the problem. And sometimes He replaces what we asked for with something far better, even if we do not realize it immediately. The greatest struggle many people face is not their situation, but their belief. They say they trust Allah, yet their hearts remain restless. They make dua, yet doubt quietly sits beside their prayer. True belief in Allah's power requires surrender. It means trusting Allah even when nothing makes sense, even when the tears keep falling, even when the answer does not come in the way we expected. This level of trust transforms pain into patience and fear into calm. No sin is too great for Allah to forgive. No heart is too broken for Allah to heal. No life is too ruined for Allah to rebuild. People may define you by your past, but Allah looks at your repentance. Society may close its doors on you, but Allah opens doors from directions you never imagined. When a servant sincerely turns back to Allah, the weight of years of mistakes can be lifted in a single moment of mercy. We must remember that Allah is not bound by cause and effect the way we are. He can give without means and take without warning. He can grant ease in the middle of hardship and peace in the middle of chaos. When everything around you collapses, Allah remains constant. When people leave, Allah stays. When plans fail, Allah's plan continues without interruption. Often, Allah tests His servants at the edge of their patience. Right before the relief arrives, the trial feels heaviest. This is where many people lose hope, not realizing that they are standing at the doorstep of ease. Allah loves to see His servants call upon Him sincerely, not as a last resort, but as their first and only refuge. Every whispered dua, every silent tear, every moment of reliance is recorded and valued. Nothing is impossible for Allah also means that your future is not trapped by your present. You may be struggling today, but tomorrow can look completely different by Allah's will. A single moment can change everything. A single opportunity, a single acceptance of dua, a single decision guided by Allah can shift the direction of an entire life. What matters is not how hopeless the situation looks, but how strong your connection with Allah is. When the heart truly believes that Allah is capable of all things, fear begins to lose its grip. Anxiety weakens, despair fades. The believer learns to say, Allah is enough for me, and not as a phrase but as a conviction. This belief gives strength to endure, patience to wait, and courage to move forward even when the path is unclear. Nothing is impossible for Allah, not your healing, not your success, not your guidance, not your forgiveness, not your happiness. The only thing required is sincere faith, patience, and trust in the one who controls every affair. When Allah is with you, impossibility no longer exists. The power of a single sincere statement lies not in the number of words spoken, but in the truth carried by the heart that speaks them. Many people believe that change requires long speeches, complicated actions, or dramatic effort. Yet, time and again, faith teaches us that one sentence, when spoken with honesty and complete reliance on Allah, can transform a life. A statement made sincerely can open doors that years of effort could not, because sincerity connects the servant directly to the Creator. Words are not ordinary, they carry weight, intention, and direction. When spoken carelessly, they can harm, discourage, and destroy. But when spoken with faith and sincerity, they can heal hearts, calm storms, and change destinies. Allah has placed immense power in the tongue, and even greater power in the intention behind it. A heart aligned with truth gives strength to even the simplest words. Many people repeat phrases of remembrance daily, yet feel no change. This is not because the words are weak, but because the heart is absent. Sincerity is what gives life to speech. When a person speaks while fully aware that Allah is listening, watching, and capable of responding, the words rise beyond sound. They become a form of worship. They become a declaration of trust. They become an admission of weakness before the one who is all-powerful. A single sincere statement is often born in moments of desperation. When strength runs out, when answers disappear, and when the heart is exhausted, sincerity naturally emerges. At that moment, there is no performance, no pride, and no distraction. There is only truth. A broken heart that speaks honestly to Allah is stronger than 1,000 confident words spoken without presence. Allah does not look at the length of speech, He looks at the depth of humility. Many lives have changed not because of long prayers, but because of one honest cry. A person may spend years distracted, yet in one moment of clarity say, "Oh Allah, I need you," and everything begins to shift. That statement may not immediately change the situation, but it changes the heart, and a changed heart invites divine help. When the heart turns sincerely toward Allah, Allah turns the entire world in its favor. Sincerity removes barriers between the servant and Allah. Pride builds walls, habit dulls meaning, but sincerity breaks through all of that. When a person says, "Allah is enough for me," while truly believing that no other support can compare, those words become a shield against fear and despair. They carry reassurance not because the problem disappears instantly, but because the heart knows it is no longer alone. A sincere statement is an admission of reality. It acknowledges weakness, confusion, and dependence. This is why such statements are beloved to Allah. They reflect truth. The servant is not pretending to be strong. They are acknowledging their need. And Allah loves to respond to those who recognize their need for Him. The moment a person stops relying on their own power and sincerely calls upon Allah, divine assistance begins to unfold in ways unseen. Sometimes sincerity comes after failure. A person tries every door, every solution, every connection, and still finds themselves stuck. It is then that the heart softens and a sincere statement emerges naturally. What once felt like a formality becomes a lifeline. The tongue speaks, but the heart leads, and Allah responds not because of desperation, but because of honesty. One sincere statement can redirect an entire life. A person living heedlessly may one day say, "O Allah, guide me," and that single request can pull them away from darkness and toward light. Guidance does not always come dramatically. Sometimes it begins quietly, with a subtle shift in priorities, a new discomfort with wrongdoing, or a growing desire for closeness to Allah. That one sincere statement becomes the seed from which transformation grows. The beauty of sincerity is that it does not require perfection. A person does not need to be free from sin, knowledgeable, or confident. They only need to be truthful. Allah's mercy is not limited to the righteous. It reaches the struggling, the broken, and the lost. A sincere statement spoken by a sinner can be more powerful than empty words spoken by someone who appears righteous. Allah sees the heart, not the image. Even silence can carry sincerity. Sometimes a person cannot find the words, yet their heart speaks clearly. Tears fall, breaths shake, and the heart whispers what the tongue cannot express. Allah understands these moments better than we do. He responds to intentions even before words are formed. This is the depth of sincerity that connects directly to divine mercy. A single sincere statement also reshapes how a person sees their trials. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" the heart begins to say, "O Allah, I trust you." This shift does not erase pain, but it gives meaning to it. Pain becomes a path rather than a punishment. The statement may be simple, but its impact is profound. It trains the heart to lean on Allah rather than collapse under pressure. Over time, sincerity builds resilience. A person who regularly speaks to Allah with honesty develops inner strength. They learn that relief may come slowly, but it always comes with wisdom. They stop measuring success by immediate results and start measuring it by closeness to Allah. This is the true power of a sincere statement. It aligns the heart with divine wisdom. Words spoken sincerely also shape the future. They influence decisions, patience, and perspective. When a person repeatedly affirms their trust in Allah with honesty, their actions begin to reflect that trust. Fear loses its hold, anxiety lessens, hope becomes stronger. The statement is no longer just spoken, it is lived. In a world filled with noise, sincerity is rare. Many speak, few connect. Many ask, few surrender. But the one who offers a single sincere statement to Allah stands out. That statement may be quiet, unnoticed by others, but it echoes in the unseen. And Allah, who responds to sincerity, turns that one statement into a source of guidance, strength, and change. Tawakkul is often spoken about, yet deeply misunderstood. Many people reduce it to words, thinking that trust in Allah means simply saying, "I leave it to Allah," while the heart remains restless and afraid. True tawakkul is far greater than that. It is trust beyond logic, beyond visible means, and beyond human calculations. It is placing the heart completely in Allah's care while continuing to walk forward with obedience and effort, even when the path makes no sense. Human logic is limited by what the eyes can see and the mind can process. We rely on patterns, experience, and probability. When those tools fail, fear takes over. Tawakkul begins precisely at the point where logic reaches its limit. It is not the absence of fear, but the decision not to let fear rule the heart. A person with tawakkul feels uncertainty, but does not surrender to despair. They move forward knowing that Allah controls outcomes, not circumstances. True tawakkul does not mean abandoning effort. It means freeing the heart from dependence on effort alone. A person takes the means available, but their peace does not come from the means. It comes from Allah. If the means succeed, they are grateful. If they fail, they remain calm, knowing that Allah's wisdom has not failed. This balance is what separates genuine trust from passive thinking. Many people struggle with tawakkul because they want guarantees. They want to trust Allah only if the result feels safe. But trust without risk is not trust, it is comfort. Tawakkul requires surrendering the illusion of control. It requires accepting that Allah may choose a path different from what we desire, and believing that His choice is better even when it hurts. Life constantly challenges this belief. A person may plan carefully, work hard, and still face loss. When this happens, the heart is tested. Does it collapse in frustration, or does it turn calmly back to Allah? Tawakkul teaches the heart to say, I did my part, and Allah will do what is best. This statement carries strength because it removes the burden of outcome from the servant and places it where it belongs. Trust beyond logic means trusting Allah even when the timing feels wrong. Delay is one of the hardest tests of tawakkul. The heart begins to question, to worry, to assume rejection, but Allah's timing is never accidental. What feels late to us may be protection. What feels unanswered may be preparation. Tawakkul teaches patience without bitterness and hope without desperation. One of the greatest barriers to tawakkul is attachment. When the heart becomes too attached to a specific outcome, trust weakens. The heart starts negotiating instead of surrendering. True tawakkul allows desire, but not dependency. A person hopes, asks, and works, yet remains content with whatever Allah chooses. This contentment is not resignation, it is confidence in divine wisdom. Tawakkul also reshapes how a person handles fear. Fear thrives on uncertainty, but tawakkul thrives within it. When the heart trusts Allah, fear loses its power. The situation may remain difficult, but the heart becomes steady. This inner steadiness is a gift that cannot be explained by logic. It comes from knowing that nothing reaches you unless Allah allows it, and nothing leaves you unless Allah wills it. There are moments when tawakkul feels impossible, when pain is intense, when loss is fresh, and when answers are absent, trust feels heavy. Yet, it is in these moments that tawakkul becomes most meaningful. Choosing trust when the heart is broken is an act of worship. Allah values these moments deeply because they reflect sincerity, not convenience. Tawakkul does not promise ease, but it promises purpose. A person who trusts Allah sees trials differently. Instead of asking, how do I escape this? They begin to ask, what is Allah teaching me through this? This shift transforms hardship into growth. The pain may remain, but it no longer feels pointless. Another aspect of tawakkul is letting go of constant worry about the future. Worry drains energy without changing outcomes. Tawakkul redirects that energy into prayer, effort, and acceptance. The heart learns to focus on today, trusting Allah with tomorrow. This does not make a person careless, it makes them present. Trust beyond logic also means trusting Allah's mercy with one's past. Many people struggle to move forward because they cannot let go of regret. Tawakkul teaches that Allah is capable of transforming mistakes into lessons and losses into guidance. When a person truly trusts Allah, they believe that even their past can be used for good. Tawakkul strengthens over time. It is built through repeated experiences of reliance and relief. Each time a person places their trust in Allah and witnesses His care, their heart grows more confident. Eventually, trust becomes a natural response rather than a forced effort. In a world obsessed with control, tawakkul feels uncomfortable. It requires humility, patience, and courage, yet it offers something no amount of control can provide: peace. Peace that does not depend on outcomes, circumstances, or certainty. Peace that exists simply because the heart knows it is held by Allah. Trust beyond logic is not about understanding everything. It is about accepting that Allah understands everything. When the heart truly embraces this, it learns to rest, even while the world remains uncertain. Allah's help often comes at the last moment, not because Allah delays out of neglect, but because divine wisdom works beyond human timing. Human beings measure moments by clocks and calendars, but Allah measures moments by what hearts need, what faith requires, and what outcomes will bring the greatest good. When relief feels late, when patience feels exhausted, and when hope feels fragile, that is often the moment closest to divine intervention. People usually expect help early, before pain deepens and before fear grows. But Allah allows situations to unfold fully so that the heart learns lessons it could not learn otherwise. When ease comes too soon, gratitude may be shallow. When help comes after struggle, gratitude becomes sincere and lasting. The delay shapes the soul before changing the circumstance. At the last moment, human strength reaches its limit. Plans fail, resources run out, and the heart realizes that nothing remains except Allah. This is not weakness, this is clarity. Allah brings His servant to this point intentionally because reliance mixed with self-dependence is not true reliance. When all other supports collapse, Tawakkul becomes pure. That purity invites help that is unmistakably from Allah. Many people look back at their hardest moments and realize that if relief had come earlier, they would never have grown. Patience would not have matured. Faith would not have deepened. The heart would not have softened. Allah knows how much pressure the heart needs to transform, and He never applies more than it can bear. The final moment before relief is often the moment of greatest internal change. When Allah delays help, it is also to remove attachment to outcomes. The heart initially clings to specific solutions, specific people, and specific timelines. As delays continue, those attachments weaken. The heart learns to say, "Oh Allah, I leave the outcome to you." This surrender is powerful. It aligns the heart with divine wisdom rather than personal preference. Allah's help at the last moment also teaches humility. When success arrives after desperation, there is no room for arrogance. The servant knows they did not achieve this through intelligence, effort, or connections alone. They know it was mercy. This awareness protects the heart from pride and keeps gratitude alive. Often, Allah waits until people give up on helping you. When no one expects change, when support disappears, and when voices of doubt grow louder, Allah intervenes. This ensures that the miracle is not attributed to people, but to Him alone. It becomes a sign not just for the one receiving help, but for everyone witnessing it. The final moment before relief is also a test of sincerity. Will the servant continue to pray even when answers seem distant? Will they remain obedient even when tired? Will they trust Allah even when emotions say otherwise? Allah values these moments deeply because they reveal what truly lives in the heart. Many people abandon hope just before the turning point. They assume delay means rejection, but Allah's silence is not absence. He hears every word, sees every tear, and records every ounce of patience. The help may not come in the form expected, but it comes in the form most needed. Allah's help arriving late also protects the servant from harm they cannot see. What feels like delay may be preventing a greater loss. What feels like denial may be redirection. The heart only sees the present pain, but Allah sees the future impact. Trusting this unseen wisdom is difficult, yet it is central to faith. When relief finally arrives, it often comes suddenly. A door opens without warning, a solution appears from an unexpected place, a burden lifts quietly. This suddenness reminds the heart that Allah is never struggling to help. He was always capable. He simply chose the perfect moment. The last moment is often when the servant's dua becomes most sincere. Earlier prayers may have been mixed with confidence and expectation. Later prayers are stripped of everything except need. That need is beloved to Allah. It reflects truth. It reflects humility. It reflects complete dependence. Allah's help coming at the last moment also teaches patience with destiny. Life does not move according to human urgency. Some lessons require time. Some changes require endurance. Allah allows the servant to walk the long road so that when the destination is reached, the heart is ready to receive it. This pattern repeats throughout life. relief after hardship, ease after strain. Light after darkness, the believer learns to recognize it even while standing in the middle of difficulty. They may still feel pain, but they no longer feel abandoned. They understand that delay is part of divine care, not a sign of neglect. When Allah helps at the last moment, it reshapes faith permanently. The heart remembers. In future trials, fear still comes, but despair does not settle as deeply. The heart recalls past rescues and finds strength to wait again. This memory becomes a source of calm during uncertainty. The final moments before relief are heavy, but they are not empty. They are filled with unseen preparation. Allah is arranging circumstances, aligning hearts, and removing obstacles in ways beyond human perception. What appears still is often movement happening in the unseen. Allah's help does not follow human schedules, but it always arrives with precision, not early enough to remove growth, not late enough to break the servant. Exactly when it is meant to. This timing is not accidental. It is mercy guided by wisdom. In those moments when patience feels impossible and hope feels fragile, the heart is closer to relief than it realizes. Allah does not abandon His servants at the edge of despair. He meets them there with help that transforms not only their situation, but their understanding of Him. Despair often begins quietly. It does not always arrive as loud sadness or visible tears. Sometimes it settles slowly in the heart through repeated disappointments, unanswered questions, and long periods of waiting. A person may continue functioning, smiling, and fulfilling responsibilities, yet inside they feel empty, heavy, and distant from hope. In these moments, the heart is not in need of explanations or advice. It is in need of remembrance. Dhikr becomes the bridge that carries the heart from despair back to hope. The heart was created to remember Allah. When it forgets Him, it searches endlessly for peace in other places and finds none. Wealth, people, success, and distractions may temporarily numb the pain, but they cannot heal it. Dhikr, however, speaks directly to the heart's deepest need. It reconnects the servant to the one who controls every affair. When remembrance enters the heart, despair begins to lose its grip, not because the problem disappears, but because the heart no longer faces it alone. Despair thrives on isolation. It convinces the heart that it has been forgotten, that its struggles are unseen, and that its prayers are unheard. Dhikr breaks this illusion. Each mention of Allah's name is a reminder that He is near, aware, and attentive. Saying His name is not merely an act of the tongue, it is an acknowledgement of presence. The heart begins to feel seen again, and hope quietly returns. Dhikr does not require strength. It does not require long hours or perfect focus. It can be whispered in weakness, repeated through tears, or carried silently in the heart. This accessibility is part of its mercy. Even when the heart feels too tired to pray or too broken to speak at length, remembrance remains possible. A single word repeated with sincerity can calm storms within the soul. As Dhikr continues, it begins to reshape perception. The heart that once focused only on pain slowly becomes aware of blessings still present. Breath becomes a gift, life becomes a sign, survival itself becomes a reminder of divine care. Despair narrows vision, but Dhikr widens it. It lifts the heart from the immediate weight of suffering and places it within the vastness of Allah's mercy. Dhikr also creates consistency in a time of chaos. When life feels unstable, remembrance becomes an anchor. Repeating Allah's names, glorifying Him, and seeking His forgiveness introduces rhythm and stability into the heart. This stability does not remove the hardship, but it provides a firm place to stand while facing it. The heart learns that even when circumstances are uncertain, Allah remains constant. One of the most powerful effects of Dhikr is that it softens the heart. Hardship can make the heart tense, defensive, and closed. Dhikr melts that hardness. It allows emotions to flow instead of remaining trapped. Tears may come, but they become a form of release rather than despair. Through remembrance, pain finds expression without overwhelming the soul. Hope through Dhikr does not appear suddenly or dramatically. It grows quietly, like light entering a dark room through a small opening. With each remembrance, the heart becomes a little lighter, a little calmer, a little more trusting. Over time, this gentle change becomes noticeable. Reactions soften, anxiety eases. The future feels less threatening. These shifts are subtle, but they are powerful. Dhikr also restores perspective on time. Despair often traps the heart in the present moment, making pain feel endless. Remembrance reminds the heart that Allah's plan extends beyond what is currently visible. It reconnects the servant to a larger story, one guided by wisdom and mercy. This awareness allows patience to take root, even while waiting remains difficult. Through Dhikr, the heart learns to speak to Allah without conditions. It stops bargaining and starts surrendering. This surrender is where hope deepens. The heart no longer demands immediate relief. It trusts that relief will come at the right time. This trust does not erase longing, but it removes desperation. Another transformation that Dhikr brings is inner strength. A heart that remembers Allah regularly becomes resilient. It bends under pressure, but does not break. Each remembrance reinforces the belief that Allah is greater than the problem. This belief does not come from logic or reassurance. It comes from connection. The heart feels supported, and that support gives it the courage to endure. Dhikr also purifies intention. Despair often comes with resentment and confusion. Remembrance gently cleanses these emotions, replacing them with acceptance and clarity. The heart may still ask questions, but it stops accusing destiny. It learns to wait without bitterness, knowing that Allah's wisdom is never cruel. Even when circumstances remain unchanged, Dhikr changes the way the heart carries them. Pain becomes lighter when shared with Allah. Worry becomes manageable when placed in His care. Loneliness fades when the heart feels accompanied. These changes may not be visible to others, but they transform the inner world completely. The journey from despair to hope is not about escaping hardship. It is about learning how to live within it without losing faith. Dhikr provides that path. It teaches the heart to breathe again, to trust again, and to hope again, even when nothing outward has shifted. With remembrance, the heart begins to understand that despair is not a permanent state. It is a passing cloud, not the sky itself. Allah remains, His mercy remains, and His help remains even when unseen. Dhikr keeps this truth alive in the heart, ensuring that no matter how heavy the trial becomes, hope is never extinguished. Your tongue is one of the smallest parts of your body, yet it carries the power to shape your future in ways you may not immediately recognize. Words are not empty sounds. They reflect what lives in the heart, and they influence the direction of a person's life. What you repeatedly say becomes what you begin to believe, and what you believe eventually shapes how you act, endure, and hope. The tongue can either open doors or quietly close them long before you realize it. Many people underestimate the impact of their daily speech. Complaints, negative predictions, and hopeless statements may seem harmless, but over time they shape the mindset and weaken faith. When a person constantly speaks about failure, loss, and fear, the heart begins to accept those outcomes as inevitable. This does not mean that difficulties disappear when we avoid negative words, but it means the heart approaches difficulties with strength rather than surrender. The tongue plays a central role in faith because it expresses reliance. When a person says words of trust and remembrance, they reinforce their connection with Allah. Each statement of reliance strengthens the heart, even if the situation remains difficult. Over time, these words train the soul to respond to hardship with patience rather than panic. What you say in moments of pressure matters more than what you say in moments of comfort. Under stress, the heart reveals its true state through the tongue. Words spoken during fear can either deepen despair or invite calm. Choosing words that reflect trust does not deny pain, it redirects it. Saying words of hope during hardship is not pretending, it is an act of faith. The tongue also influences the unseen. Supplication is speech, and supplication changes destinies by Allah's will. When a person speaks to Allah sincerely, they engage in a conversation that carries power beyond human understanding. A single heartfelt prayer can protect, guide, and open paths unseen. These moments of speech are not ordinary, they are acts of worship that ripple into the future. The words you speak about yourself are especially powerful. Repeated self-criticism weakens the soul, while words of humility combined with hope strengthen it. Speaking with balance allows growth. Acknowledging weakness without declaring defeat keeps the heart open to change. The tongue should reflect truth, not self-destruction. Promises made with the tongue also shape the future. Words spoken in commitment, intention, and resolve influence actions. When a person declares their intentions sincerely, the heart and body begin to align with that declaration. This alignment creates consistency and direction. The future is built from these small, repeated verbal commitments. The tongue can either nurture patience or feed impatience. Complaining aloud magnifies frustration, while expressions of trust soften it. This does not mean suppressing emotion, it means choosing how to express it. Words that acknowledge struggle while affirming trust create emotional balance. They allow the heart to feel without breaking. Speech also shapes relationships, which in turn shape the future. Words can heal or harm, unite or divide. A kind word can preserve a bond that supports you through hardship. A careless word can destroy a connection that might have been a source of ease. The future you walk into is influenced by the relationships you maintain, and those relationships are shaped largely by what you say. The tongue is also a mirror of intention. When intentions are pure, speech becomes gentle. When intentions are selfish, speech becomes harsh. Refining the tongue refines the heart. This refinement affects choices, reactions, and priorities, all of which contribute to future outcomes. In moments of uncertainty, the tongue can guide the heart back to stability. Repeating words of remembrance calms anxiety and anchors the soul. These moments of verbal connection prevent fear from overwhelming the heart. Over time, this practice builds resilience. The future becomes less intimidating because the heart knows how to return to peace. What you speak in private matters as much as what you speak in public. Private words shape inner belief. Speaking kindly to yourself, reminding yourself of Allah's mercy, and maintaining respectful speech even when alone builds inner strength. This strength carries forward into how you face future challenges. The tongue also shapes repentance. A person may feel regret internally, but verbal repentance gives direction to that regret. Speaking words of return, even quietly, turns remorse into movement. This movement changes the future by breaking patterns and opening doors to mercy. Consistent speech creates habits, and habits create identity. The way you speak today becomes the way you respond tomorrow. Over time, your tongue trains your heart. If your words are rooted in trust, gratitude, and remembrance, your future becomes grounded in those qualities. Your tongue can change your future not because words alone control destiny, but because words shape the heart that walks into destiny. When the heart is aligned with truth and trust, it navigates life differently. The future becomes a place of effort, patience, and hope rather than fear and despair. As we come to the end of this reminder, remember this truth. Your life does not change when circumstances change. It changes when your heart changes. Nothing is impossible for Allah. One sincere statement can turn the direction of destiny. True tawakkul begins when logic ends. Allah's help often arrives at the very moment you think you cannot endure anymore. Dhikr lifts the heart from despair to hope, and your tongue, when aligned with faith, can shape a future filled with mercy and ease. Do not underestimate what Allah can do through a heart that trusts Him and a tongue that remembers Him. The world may tell you to give up, to accept defeat, to believe that your situation defines you. But faith tells you something greater. Allah defines you, not your hardship. What you are facing today is not the end. It is part of a journey carefully written by the Most Wise, so walk forward with patience. Speak words of hope, even when your voice trembles. Remember Allah, even when your heart feels heavy. Trust Him, even when the path is unclear, because the one who carried you through every moment until now will not abandon you at the end. Place your reliance in Allah, keep your tongue alive with remembrance, and let your heart rest in certainty. When Allah is with you, fear loses its power, despair loses its voice, and the impossible becomes possible.